he was trying to hire somebody to kill her.
It was a murder for hire. Correct. Yeah.
And he also got hit up with...
So that's a total separation. Joe Exotic was arrested for a murder for hire for her. Gotham Investigations. I'm Jeffreygiordano, your private investigator. Today we have Shay Haley, also known as the Tiger Prince, who helped me out on an investigation into reptile smuggling. Gotham Investigations was recently hired to investigate illegal reptile smuggling from a legitimate reptile importer. When we went into this location, the warehouse, Shay was able to immediately identify reptiles that are banned from the U.S. Why are some of these reptiles banned? Not only can they destroy our ecosystem, but they can destroy and bring in diseases to our state and the United States. Shay, you want to explain to us how you got involved in this investigation when I contacted you and what reptiles you actually saw where you immediately drew red flags and said that this is definitely a no-go for the U.S.?
Yeah, so there's a lot of species. Well, first off, the location we went to, I noticed right off the bat that they were trying to pass off like species that look like illegal species and passed off like a black caiman as a species that's legal, but it's not. You're not allowed to bring them into the country. They come out of like Brazil and the Amazon, and yeah. So.
Now, reptile smuggling is the fourth largest criminal enterprise in the United States, next to human trafficking, drug smuggling, and weapons and guns. Can you explain the fascination that people have with reptiles and exotic animals?
Yeah, well, I find that, people that like exotic pets and wildlife, like myself included, are just different types of people that, a lot of the time, I would say a good 75% of the time, people that are involved in the exotic pet trade have psychological issues, personality disorders, that had trauma as a childhood, abandonment issues, and a lot of them are godless.
When you say godless, what do you mean by godless? And obviously they have to have money.
Yeah, a lot of the time. But no, godless meaning like just people that are just so on the opposite direction of God, just anti-God, more, it sounds crazy, but more people that worship the devil than you would believe that are involved in the animal trade.
But why animals? Why are they attracted to animals and not humans?
Yeah, well, animals are very innocent as far as they don't judge you. They're not, you know what you're getting into. You work with a lion or tiger, you know it's going to try to kill you. You work with a cobra or like a crocodile, you know they're going to try to kill you. People will try to be your friend first and then try to kill you. So a lot of people just have a fascination with just being connected with animals. And also, yeah, I mean, it's like they don't need empathy. A lot of people that are empty. I mean, like I said, I'm not empty or anything, but, as far as with the animal goes, I just feel like when I was a kid, I used to talk to animals, and I spent a lot of time alone. I was sick growing up, and I found.
So when you say talk to animals, have like a conversation with them, like you would a human being.
Like they don't speak to me. Animals don't speak to me necessarily, but I would speak to them and feel like as if like we could are connected, where we did understand each other in a certain way that a lot of people wouldn't understand.
I guess when you say opposite direction of God, it's kind of like these kids that grow up with families that are detached from each other, and they become members of a gang because that's the only way that they feel that they belong to something, that they're able to fit in. They finally have someone that's paying attention to them. Do animals give you that kind of sense of belonging?
Absolutely. Animals do give you like a sense of belonging, like you have something to do. Also, I found that over the years, I've been an alligator handler, wrestler for 18 years now, and I found that working with snakes and animals that want to kill you constantly, you're always like in a fight or flight mode. So you get a lot of adrenaline with those things. Now maybe I'm not maybe I'm slightly addicted to that adrenaline. But when you're not doing that, you almost feel like your life isn't fulfilling enough as well. So like, just like in the war zone in battle, a lot of military guys, they'll go into battle, they're getting shot at, friends are getting blown up, and next thing you know, they come back to civilian life, and it's just so boring that, you know, it's hard to cope with reality.
So with the illegal trade, these reptiles that they're bringing to the United States, they're also used for black market medicines, some of these snakes, where they don't have to get approval from the FDA. That's why they have to bring these
Yeah.
snakes in. But recently, you went to Africa, and you were hired by legitimate reptile people that actually had licenses and were getting ripped off. Can you explain a little bit about your trip to Africa and what you found?
Yeah, out of 54 countries in Africa, I went to Ghana and West Africa, where the Gaboon Vipers are, the largest fangs of any snake, one of the largest venom yields, the amount of venom that they have. And I went 6 hours into the jungle by myself, met people in the jungle of like a place called Nkaka, and we looked for mambas and Gaboon Vipers and crocodiles. That I was brought there or came there because other reptile enthusiasts here in South Florida and in Texas, they were paying a guy to capture a bunch of animals over there to import them over here. But what was happening is he stopped sending every time. So it was like every other time he was sending it, and it was up to me to figure out like what is he doing and why are they having a hard time getting him to send wildlife or stuff that they're catching. And what I come to find is that he was using the money that these guys are giving to him to get all the animals from different countries like Togo, Benin, Congo, and then get the other people there to bring them to him. And then he was advertising them to like Europe and selling those same reptiles to another person in Europe, and ultimately ripping these guys off for over like $60,000, $100,000. While I was there, we racked up a $17,000 invoice with the guy, and my guys didn't want to send any more money because they felt like he wasn't going to send animals with me. And ultimately that is what happened. I was trying to make sure that we were bringing back animals. I was trying to get special permits for the West African Nile crocodile, which it's not a very rare species, but Ghana doesn't let you send that species from their country. Even though it's allowed here in America, some countries just don't allow you to send reptiles, that specific species, from their country.
So you kind of went out there, you were hired by the organization here, and then they didn't pay their part of the bargain. Didn't that put your life in danger out there a little bit?
Oh, you have no idea. My life, mind you, I prayed to God because I do believe in God. And I went out there, mind you, I was by myself. And when the guy didn't get money, when he was expecting money, I did feel a little uneasy and felt like if they felt the opportunity, they would have kidnapped me and held me for ransom. But I came there with letting them feel like I didn't have any money, like there was nobody gonna save me, there was nobody gonna send them money, so it was like worthless to kidnap me or make me feel threatened anyway. So they actually treated me pretty well, and I felt very comfortable there. I mean, I was in some very, very, very poverty-stricken places where they're living in a shack, clay houses. You know, kids have one ball in the whole community.
And you became a little celebrity with the kids, giving them candy and stuff that you brought down there.
Yeah, it was just an interesting.
You enjoyed your presence?
Yeah, no, I had a fun time with just meeting the people there. They were struck and by just a guy by himself that's from America.
But I saw videos of you handling these. What's the viper snake name that you were handling out there?
West African Gaboon Viper. I caught probably about 20 of them.
Now, is that a poisonous snake?
A venomous snake, actually, yeah. It is. The Gaboon Viper is a super deadly snake. I was in places that it would take us 2 hours to get out of the jungle just to get out of there, so the odds are I was most likely going to die.
And why were you handling these snakes? If you got bit, I mean, what was the plan if you got bit?
There was no plan. It was like, I'm dead.
So, I mean, how did you get involved with handling reptiles and snakes throughout your life? Is there any mandates that are giving to get licenses to be able to handle these? Even like if I wanted to today I have money and I want to open up my own import-export reptile company. Can I just open this up?
No, you can't just open up like a place without any proper like training. For example, 18 years ago, when I first signed a waiver of handling cobras and rattlesnakes and stuff at an exotic pet store, it was only 1,000 hours you needed for all 4 families of venomous species of reptiles. You know, like cobras, rattlesnakes, the Gila monsters. You needed 1,000 hours back then to be allowed to even apply to keep them as personal pets. Now it's 1,000 hours per family, and like I said, there's 4 families, so you need 4,000 hours just to be able to keep like a cobra or a rattlesnake or all of them if you wanted.
And you have those licenses. You would be able to open up your own sanctuary out here if you had the land.
If I had the facility, which is very hard to get, especially here in South Florida, I could definitely have like tigers, lions. I mean, I've put in the thousands and thousands of hours with all of them. Yeah.
Now, when you went to Africa, you came across one of your arch menaces out there that you kind of despise. Can you give us a little explanation on him?
Oh, well, I didn't actually come across him, but a guy that's a little more famous than I've been, because I was on a show called Swamp Men on Nat Geo Wild back in 2009 and 10. This gentleman was on another show that's pretty popular. He was in South Africa, in Botswana, and you know, alligators are very much easier to handle than like crocodiles, you know, and we have like 23 species of crocodilians in the world. Depends on who you ask. Some people would say there's 26, but forget about those people because, you know, it's always changing. But the guy was literally scuba diving with crocodiles in the Botswana, you know, area over there. And, you know, another buddy of mine that I filmed with many years ago, they were scuba diving in a 15-foot crocodile. And I actually got to see the video. It leaked. And nobody really knows who it is and where it's from. But the guy was getting, you know, stalked by a Nile crocodile, and a 15-foot one at that. And you could see him trying to swim off with his fins, and the crocodile grabs him by his legs, drags him 20 feet down, and the guy, you know, goes down and stabs him until the crocodile lets him go. Mind you, he had scuba gear, so it took about 20 minutes to get the guy out of his mouth underwater. He would have, of course, the crocodile was trying to drown him.
So his friend went down and stabbed the crocodile. Does that work?
Well, in this case, it did, I guess.
Thank goodness. And you have videos of you swimming with alligators. Like how many alligators you counted one time while you were in the pool?
Well, one time I was actually trying to catch particular like 9-10 foot alligators, and I counted about 76 alligators surrounding me, and I was like neck deep in water with several other people. And you know, alligators are very shy, timid. They don't want anything to do with people.
So how do you explain the lady in Pines that was eaten by an alligator that came out of the lake when she was walking her dog? There's been a couple people like that. I mean,
yeah, I mean, obviously,
mad at you, why are they going to come and eat you?
Obviously, the stories that are reported are usually like over-exaggerated, but often...
Well, she died. That's not really...
No, that's not over-exaggerated, but oftentimes people do they do feed wildlife, and when somebody sees an alligator to get a good picture or whatever, they feed it. And of course, over time, those animals lose their fear of humans and start associating people with the opportunity of food. And then obviously, some lady sitting there close to the alligator or the water, the alligator just, by the time it realizes that she's not a food, it's already too late. It's gone into its like fight or flight mode, so it's rolling and takes her body part, or you know, takes her into the water and drowns her. But ultimately, alligators only want to eat small animals, things that they can swallow in one bite. Crocodiles, they have the teeth and they're designed to rip apart animals and take pieces of them. So they're more dangerous, crocodiles. And when we do have both species, we are the only place in the world that has alligators and crocodiles living in the same ecosystem.
So do you wrestle crocodiles too?
Yeah, I mean, I hate the word wrestling because, you know, it's oftentimes used as a show. I prefer to only have to do any interaction with them when you have to, or when you're moving them, or, you know, maybe doing an educational feeding show. But ultimately, crocodiles, believe it or not, they get stressed out a lot easier than alligators and will actually die. They just they get a lactic acid buildup and they just stress out and die, where alligators just tend to survive a little better. So you don't see a lot of crocodile wrestling because of that.
Okay, and you've entered competitions as alligator wrestler. How dangerous is it? You see on the news quite often, saltwater alligators in South Beach. There's been a couple of them that come up. But there's never been any attacks on them, per se, alligators that you see in communities.
Yeah, so crocodiles tend to have like salt secreting like glands that they can survive in salt water longer than alligators can. So oftentimes, like, we have like the Gulf, and we have like a lot of crocodilians that are from like South America. We have American crocodiles, and so they come as far north as the Everglades or South Florida, and occasionally they enter into like a little mangrove swamp or a little flow of water that and just brings them into there. But again, most animals in this world are afraid of humans. We are by far the most dangerous thing in the world. So most animals want to stay away from us. But in certain places in the world where food is scarce, animals do become opportunistic, and then humans do become, accidentally eaten at times. No?
So how important is it to learn about, do you just go out there, or have you learned about the species, like people that swim with the sharks? Are they educated about the species, or do they just hop in there and swim around?
Both. Obviously you want to know what you're doing. You want to know the animal. You want to spend a lot of time watching them, observing them. You don't want to just jump in and hope to God that you're not going to get eaten. You kind of want to know what you're up against. But yeah, a lot of it's hands-on experience, and a lot of it's observing.
So you're on vacation in Orlando, and you see what happened to that kid there at the lake, Disney World Resort. Grabbed the kid, brought him back in the water. Is there a chance? What would a person do if he observes that to save this kid?
Well, if a kid gets grabbed, first off, like I said, alligators target small animals, small things. And most likely that alligator was fed by people, so that's why it was there and close by in the first place. Most likely. Not always the case, but once it's grabbed a small person or anything, it's going to swim off and try to drown it and hold on to it for even sometimes several days to soften the meat so that it can take parts of it. So like alligators will tear pieces, but they have to like spend more time like letting the meat spoil. So if you see that situation, obviously there's not a whole lot you can do. Obviously you could jump on the alligator, try to wrangle it. They don't have a lot of energy. They'll gas out pretty quickly, but ultimately they're going to rip pieces in a defense mode, just rolling, death rolling. So it's very hard to do anything once you're grabbed. But if you could, you would try to roll with it as much as you can.
Eventually hoping that
They have ears, like flaps that cover their ears to protect them from getting water. You could try, if you know where that's at, you could try to poke that, stick your hand farther down their mouth. They have a flap called a glottis that helps like keep them from swallowing water when they have prey. So if you could get like something in there to make it open up so that they swallow water, they would drown, they might let go.
Pulling in or pushing out?
No, like this little flap just covers like inside their mouth. So if you get that to open at all, then they'll swallow water and they could technically drown too. So
definitely a situation I don't want to be in.
Right.
Absolutely. So this is $1 million industry, a multi-million-dollar.
No, actually $1 billion
industry of smuggling these reptiles, and
if you add fish, it's like a $60 billion industry.
And a lot of drug dealers. Recently, there was legal reptiles that were being shipped to the U.S., and they were using these reptiles to smuggle cocaine and heroin in. Can you explain a little bit how that was done?
Oh, especially here in Florida. So Florida is notorious for a lot of reptile smugglers over in the 80s, 70s, 80s, even early 90s. And even today, there's people getting arrested still for trying to smuggle wildlife. But a lot of those people smuggle drugs to afford their wildlife habit or their habit of buying exotic pets. But a lot of reptile people would use the animals as a ruse to bring in drugs. So, like, for example, back in the 80s, there was a guy named, they called him the Lizard King, and they would import iguanas here. And when the customs would look in the box, they'd see just a bunch of iguanas, but they would actually have cocaine bags taped to their bellies, painted green. So they have 1,000 iguanas with just cocaine bags on them, and they pass it on through customs.
And the typical officer is not going to want to even be close to these iguanas when they look at it, unless there's like a drug-sniffing dog or something that
Exactly.
dog don't even want to get close to these lizards.
Yeah.
Known as the Tiger Prince. You've actually gotten 3 wolves from the Tiger King and his sanctuary in Oklahoma and brought them back to South Florida. One of them you had to get licenses from was one of your pets, and he ended up committing suicide.
Ugh, well, it's a terrible story. But
The pet, the wolf I'm talking about.
yeah, no. So I was raising lions and tigers and various other animals at a sanctuary in Okeechobee, Florida, and they're like, "Hey, we have 3 wolves, or Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, has 3 wolves over here, Alaskan timber wolves, and." Can you go and get them? And I was like, sure, I'll go get them. I'll pay for the rental car. I'll pay for the gas. Just let me keep one. And, went there. It took me like a day and a half, like 30 hours. I got to Oklahoma, picked up the wolves at the facility at Joe Exotic's place. And this is about 2018. And these 3 wolves, there's 2 females, 1 male. I keep the male. Eventually, somebody told on me because I didn't have the whole, it's a class 2 animal, so you still need documentation, you need 1,000 hours, you need 2.5 acres. So they did what's called a constructive seizure, and Fish and Wildlife actually, it took them time to deem whether it was a wolf or a dog before they actually allowed me to keep it and deemed it a dog. Because I had it so well trained, they were like, "There's no way this is a wolf," So there's a chance that it was just like a hybrid of a dog and a wolf. But I mean, coming from Joe Exotic, there's a good chance it really was wolves. But nobody did a blood test. And then, of course, the facility that the wolf was at had a lot of. It was a very terrible place. Very unkept disaster. The people get all these animals, they don't have a lot of money, then they fall apart, start resorting to illegal activity to keep these animals. All the animals were flooded when it rained in Okeechobee, and they all got worms. And so the wolf ended up getting hookworms, had like 9% of his red blood cells. We tried to do a blood transfusion, and then eventually the wolves died, all 3 of them, yeah.
So you had mentioned earlier about the opposite direction of God. If you look at the Tiger King that's on Netflix series and everything like that, he ended up going to jail for, I guess, a murder or murder for hire.
Oh, yeah. So I actually don't believe that he's really the bad guy in this whole situation. I think he's just a product, like a...
And there's word of the whole underground tiger world that you guys communicate with each other. As you said, it's kind of like a subdivision of a humane society, that these people are into drugs, they're into different things, and then they just happen to cling themselves to a belonging of animals.
Yeah.
The money to take care of them, so they starve. And who do you
resort to drugs?
Tell us about that murder.
Yeah. So, the Tiger King had his facility. He had a lot of problems with a lady named Carole Baskin in North Florida, who actually pretty much everybody knows it to be true that she killed her husband, Don Lewis, who just disappeared out of nowhere. And basically, she changed the power of attorney that she got all of his money. He was a millionaire, but he took her off the streets to be a part of this. A lot of people believe that she put him in an industrial-sized meat grinder and fed him to the tigers there.
And do they have those meat grinders on a facility?
Yeah, typically to feed the animals. A lot of times, butcher shops, even Walmart, will donate some of their expired meat to like sanctuaries like that, so that they can feed their tigers and their lions and their animals there. So yeah, so basically what happened was the Tiger King and she was like involved with like PETA people who are just so anti people owning private pets that they'd rather see the animals die than actually let you kill.
And that's a big violent organization sometimes.
But yeah, they're definitely ruthless people. And they're most of the time they don't have any animal history. They're just like, oh, you shouldn't have those pets, because they
don't understand it.
And they don't understand that you may actually be doing something for conservation and actually education. And some people, I mean, it's a very weird 50-50 people. Some people believe that you should have hands-on experience, or with the animals and interactions. And some places just don't believe that you should ever touch the animals. They should be living in the wild. But if you're going to have an animal in captivity, obviously it doesn't have the wild. So you have no choice but to treat it like, better than like a pet almost, but it's like it should be friendly, it should be feeling loved, because it can't get that like it would in the wild,
But a lot of these lions and tigers that are owned, even they end up taking a trainer arm off or leg off. Can you explain why does that happen if they're so domesticated?
Well, they're still wild animals, so you can't just there's definitely bad habits you can teach these animals. And then when you have a 500-pound lion, 600-pound lion, or a tiger, when they have one bad habit or instincts take over, and you don't pay attention to like safety precautions, there's a good chance that big animal doesn't even mean to, and it kills you. One accidental play swipe could kill you.
Now you've been known to have psychic abilities with animals, just like I have psychic abilities with humans, and we've used it on different cases. I've used you on one case where actually an alligator was a witness to a crime. How did this start, and what age were you when you realized that you can kind of communicate to animals through your mind?
Yeah, well, when I was really young, I had a dog that I used to talk to, and I felt different. I was very sick, and I spent a lot of time alone. So as I got older and I started working with animals, something clicked and something made sense that I could just understand them. And I don't know what it is exactly, but I just know that I can feel a certain connection, and I feel that something speaks to me inside, and we can just get along, and I can just kind of understand what they're kind of thinking, but not necessarily like they speak to me like in Harry Potter or something, or some kind of movie.
So this multi-billion-dollar industry, that it kind of includes elephant tusks and rhinoceros
ivory, yeah.
Why are rhinoceros horns? They're so popular in smuggling.
Yeah, well, poaching is a big thing in a lot of countries, especially Africa, for big game hunters, that they find it like an excitement to kill innocent animals, which I think is terrible. They want to put a statue in their house, or taxidermed head on the wall. Ivory for the elephant tusk, furs. I mean, it's a big industry for people who don't care about animals like I do, or like a lot of people do care to see them alive,
And actually, the shark industry has suffered quite a bit because they've been using shark fins for soup, different things, and food, and that's kind of destroys the ecosystem out there.
Well, yeah.
The decrease in them. How confident are you that this is never going to stop? It's going to continue?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of regulations happen. There are a lot of people that are involved in conservation, a lot of animal activists that are trying to stop a lot of this stuff. There's not enough people that know, what's actually happening out there to want to do something. I believe education and interactions brings in a love for these animals once you've had like a cool interaction, and then those people that have a good, beautiful experience with like a lion or a tiger.
And you can have anything you want in this world. You always want something that you can't have, and that would be an exotic animal that you can have friends over and say, look at this.
But I have,
Look at this bird that nobody else has, and you kind of have it in your sanctuary. So if you're out there and you're thinking about buying reptiles or exotic animals illegally, watch out and be careful because Gotham may be watching you. So Shay, you were saying that the Tiger King, that you believe he's innocent, but the underground world of the tiger owners and the sanctuaries, they believe that she actually put his body of her husband through a meat grinder. So why would he be arrested?
All right, so basically that whole story is very similar to how it goes in a lot of different animal facilities. I mean, it's almost the same story every time. But Carole Baskin was a big part of PETA, and she wanted to be the only person that has tigers and doesn't believe anybody else should be allowed to have animals and lions. And she didn't like Joe Exotic's, he did like road shows where people got to pet tigers. So she often would make sure that he couldn't do those things somehow by calling the facility that he was doing it at, make a big stink with PETA. And ended up, Joe Exotic had a guy filming for all the time for him. And what would happen is he would say things about Carole Baskin, and eventually got sued by Carole Baskin for like $1 million. Couldn't pay this defamation case, and ended up almost basically having to give her, Carole Baskin, his sanctuary and all his animals. So the Joe Exotic decided to try to take this guy named Jeff Lowe and actually put the facility in his name. But then the friendship kind of turned to a bad place. So then they tried to get Joe Exotic out now that his name wasn't in the facility. And eventually somebody was set up, to go in and try to talk Joe Exotic into hiring somebody to kill Carole Baskin to get, this all over with. And in the end, I don't believe Joe Exotic really knew what was happening. And in fact, they made a second Tiger King 2 to where all those guys that set him up were actually told to do this by FBI to try to get him, out of the picture. So
and obviously that ties into the smuggling of exotic animals and reptiles, because they were probably arrested and probably offered a plea if they worked as an informant for the FBI.
Right. And
what's the connection of Joe Exotic? How would they have even thought that he was able to get his hands on her husband? Did he have that connection? Did he go to her facility?
No. So Don Lewis disappeared, and that was the husband of Carole Baskin. He disappeared, and everybody knows, pretty much everybody's like, without having a body, they know that she's the one who's responsible for it, And the way it worked is that when somebody disappears, if there's no body to verify that the person is dead, they have to wait 5 years and 1 day before they actually will be able to get like all their stuff, like inheritance. So she had to wait 5 years and 1 day, but there's a lot of belief that she changed the power of attorney, so his family didn't get any money, and all of it was left to her.
But where does the connection come with Joe Exotic?
Just the animal world.
How would he have been able to have access to him to actually murder?
Well, Joe Exotic wasn't trying to murder Don Lewis. They were saying that he was trying to murder Carole Baskin because she was the one stopping this all from happening.
Okay, but where does him get in charge with?
She was interfering with Joe Exotic's zoo, trying to keep him from being able.
Right, but I'm saying Joe Exotic was arrested for murdering her husband.
Well, no. For being hired, he was trying to hire somebody to kill her.
It was a murder for hire. Correct. Yeah.
He also got hit up with.
So that's a total separation. Joe Exotic was arrested for a murder for hire for her. Nothing to do with her husband.
He was just
disappeared separately, and everyone kind of knows that it was her, but there is just nothing to tie that in right now. They say maybe he was eaten by alligators or lions or tigers.
Appeared to Costa Rica.
Disappeared.
Somewhere, yeah, nobody knows.
Gotcha. So that's a fascinating story, and sure your connections there are far more educational and on point and correct than anything that you see on made for TV.
Right, exactly.
You're out there and you're thinking about purchasing illegal reptiles or exotic animals illegally. Watch out, because Gotham may be watching you. If you like our show, subscribe, hit the like button, or call us and sponsor one of our podcasts or Psychic Detective episodes. I'm Jeff Giordano, Gotham Investigations.